In this video, we will discuss the human value of nonviolence. We will discuss it at 3 levels. First, nonviolence in action. Second, nonviolence in thought. And finally, nonviolence in the human heart. Unfortunately, the history of our world is primarily a story of violence. As we turn the pages of history, we see one war after another, a constant struggle between nations, cultures, and races. Wars, conquest, persecution, slavery, and colonization are all examples of violence. And this begs the question, where does violence come from? Its roots are selfishness, ego, anger, and hate. Wars and acts of aggression are started by parties who think they can win without causing much pain for themselves. However, directly or indirectly, this violence takes a toll on all implicated parties. The same is also true for man's violence against the animal kingdom and against nature. Our world today has serious ecological imbalances due to this type of violence. The technological developments in the last couple of centuries have given us vast power to influence nature and its resources. Directly or indirectly, this has led to widespread deforestation, death of animals, and overfishing of the seas. For example, today scientists predict that there will soon be more plastic in the ocean than fish. The extensive and indiscriminate use of natural resources has depleted our non-renewable gifts, and this assault on nature is a significant form of violence. Nonviolence is the manifestation of the eternal wisdom of the brotherhood and sisterhood of mankind. Once this familial feeling is awakened in an individual, they will not knowingly cause pain or distress to another. As we humans have evolved to an era of relative sophistication, we are less prone to getting into fistfights and mob violence. Nations don't invade or colonize others as frequently these days. However, violence frequently comes through economic policies, harsh words, cyberbullying, and many other ways. We live in a world of good and bad, light and darkness. Violence and nonviolence alike have always coexisted, and at some level, violence is difficult to avoid, just like ignorance cannot be avoided despite there being so much knowledge in the world. According to the Quran, nonviolence is the preferred way of the divine. Nonviolence is the highest virtue in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. It is said that nonviolence is the highest of all dharmas. It is also understood that, in the path of righteousness, one may expect violence. With all the ups and downs of good and bad in the world, it is not easy to follow nonviolence. The world has never seen a point in time when there was no political violence and no individual has ever lived a life in which he or she was never wronged. So violence and nonviolence have to be taken in the right context. As Sai Baba explains, if a robber cuts off your hand, it is violence. If a doctor amputates your hand and saves your life, it is nonviolence. This quote from Mahatma Gandhi is true at all levels, from our daily interactions to major wars and violence toward nature. He said, "I object to violence because when it appears to do well, the good is only temporary. The evil it does is permanent." Nonviolence is the key to harmony among individuals, religious or ethnic groups, and nations. For there to be peace on earth, there must first be harmony between humankind and nature. In general, nonviolence is a way of life, and our goal should be its perfection. Evolving in nonviolence deals with growing in sensitivity toward fellow humans and the world at large. Nonviolence naturally follows when a person begins to value compassion, love, tolerance, respect, harmony, and other human virtues. It is based on seeing the connectivity, interdependence, and even unity of all. More than ever, today it must include man's relationships with the animal kingdom and nature. Nonviolence expresses itself in many qualities and virtues, Some of these include forgiveness, tolerance, compassion, sympathy, a desire to give, justice, unprejudiced respect, helpfulness, acceptance, cooperation, gentleness, self-sacrifice, harmlessness, non-competitiveness, and non-retaliation. The 3HV of nonviolence is as follows. In the hand, it is making sure that no harm is caused by words or actions. In the head, or in our thoughts, it is not only having no ill feelings, but also developing familial feelings toward others. And in the heart, it is seeing the unity in the diversity of this world. In practical application, we see nonviolence exhibited by harming no one in words or actions, being sensitive to the needs of others, following the virtues of cooperation, helpfulness, forgiveness, justice, and the upholding of human rights. Thomas Edison put it this way: nonviolence leads to the highest ethics, which is the goal of all evolution. Until we stop harming all other living beings, we are still savages. Nonviolence in thought, or in the mind, is manifest by feelings of brotherhood and sisterhood, tolerance, having no hatred, malice, or envy, and having sympathetic regard for all. Sai Baba has taught, the meaning of nonviolence is that either in thought, words, or deeds, you should not cause harm to anybody. Finally, nonviolence in the human heart is shown through universal love and seeing unity in diversity. True nonviolence is deeply rooted in the human heart and comes from a spiritual perspective on our existence. In the words of Nobel laureate Albert Camus, who wrote during the period following World War II, only a philosophy of eternity in the world today could justify nonviolence. Sai Baba has also said, man's foremost task is recognizing the unity that underlies the multiplicity. If one inquires into the matter with a pure and unselfish mind, one will see what is common to all beings. On seeking a higher reality, the Bhagavad Gita says, one is dearest to God who has no enemies among the living beings, who is nonviolent to all creatures. As nonviolence may be considered the ultimate human value and the epitome of spirituality in action, its development is not easy, but it is the gateway to the world we dream of, and it is worth every sacrifice.